Hey, what's going on? A happy Tuesday to you as we are out here at Mungenast, St. Louis Acura. Joe Roderick, Mike Claiborne with you. Another episode of Lunch with Claibs and Joe. And Claibs surrounded by a lot of beautiful cars here at Mungenast, St. Louis Acura.
Yeah, this is one of the few places in St. Louis where you can actually find a vehicle. And one of the things I would suggest, if you're thinking about trading yours in, if you want to sell yours, they're looking for used cars as well, but they do have a nice selection. I wouldn't wait. As you all know, we have the supply chain shortages and cars aren't as readily available. But here, because of the size, they have a few more that are available, have a lot of used cars as well. So come on out and check them out, or you can go online and check them out as well. I know a lot of people are buying cars online these days. This might be a good start for you.
Yeah, and you can find them all online too, stlouisacura.com, or sponsor here of everything we do at Claibs Online. Claibs, not a whole lot on the docket today to get to, but got to spend a lot of time with the topics that we have, and we start with the bad from last night in St. Louis. Down at Enterprise Center, the Blues fall 6-3 to the Colorado Avalanche. Now down 3-1 in the series. And what started off, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the game up there in the booth. I know at the stadium they showed the highlight as soon as it happened. They got off to a good start, and then quickly things unraveled for the Blues, who you were hoping would kind of ride Val Husso and get some sort of life out after losing Jordan Binnington.
Well, one of the things, and you're right about last night. I remember when I was up in the booth, it was 1-0, and by the time I got to the field, it was 3-1, and I think it ended up being 4-1. When I left the ballpark, it was 4-1, and I went to another destination. It was 4-3, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, we got a shot. We got a whole period to climb back in it. They just didn't have it, and there's a lot of reasons. Goaltending is average. You got to be above average against a good team like Colorado. You only have 3 or 4 guys that are actually contributing with regard to offense. And, they got sidetracked, and I get the whole thing about Kadri. But, they got outworked last night. They got outskated. They got outworked. They got out-hit. And obviously they got out-talented. And that's something that the Blues cannot afford to have happen again. So let's start from the goal line. What do you have to lose by throwing Lindgren in on Wednesday?
At this point, nothing. It was 6 goals yesterday in the game, and a few of those,
3 of them were his fault.
I was going to say a few of them were soft goals to give up. Yeah. So is it a case of Binnington? I mean, because remember, Husso started the first game of the playoffs. He was your goalie. Binnington won that job back and did not lose that job until he got injured. And Husso wasn't expecting to come in when he was in Game 3, and
there was no excuse about
it. But I'm just saying, wasn't maybe fully warmed up, whatever. But he was ready to go. He knew the job was his, and there was nobody coming for him yesterday, and he didn't have a good game.
Well, I'm gonna back you up on that. He wasn't ready. No, when you show up to the rink or the game ballpark, you have to have the mindset that I'm going to go into this game. So if he wasn't mentally prepared, then he's got bigger problems as far as his career is concerned. But to think about Binnington, who was playing okay, he wasn't as sharp as maybe we've seen him in the past, but you know what? He was doing a nice job. So at this point, Husso has had the opportunity, and as I said, he's just been average. Cannot be average in the playoffs. You have to be above that. So what do you have to lose with Lindgren? Now, I know he had 5 games. He was 5-0 in St. Louis. But you got to figure out whether he's part of your future anyway, because Husso is going to be unrestricted. And I think the chances of him staying when you're already paying a guy $5 million, you cannot do that. So there's a lot of moving parts here. So I don't think you don't lose anything by playing Lindgren.
The next game for them is coming up on tomorrow on Wednesday, an earlier start time. With the Tampa series being a sweep, that one being over. I haven't heard your opinion on Kadri and what's going on there, and I don't think that we can call it a completely dirty play what happened to Binnington, but it's one of those cases where it's always Kadri that seems to be involved in dirty plays during his career, multiple suspensions during his career. And the way that not only the Colorado, I mean, you expect that out of the Denver media to kind of shift the narrative of him being the victim now, but it seems to be the case nationally. The NHL media has kind of made this into him being the victim, whether it be the water bottle or the few internet trolls that are saying things to him. And now it seems like he's done nothing wrong, and he's the good guy in this situation.
Well, that's why I don't pay attention to that, because I thought that play was borderline, but because of his track record,
Yep.
I think that's why we look at it even closer. Excuse me. Let's take Ryan O'Reilly. If Ryan O'Reilly had done that, everybody would have said, well, you know what? It was just one of those plays, because everybody considers him an honest hockey player. You can't say that about Kadri. His track record has proven time and time again, and he shrugs his shoulders like, what did I do? So I had a problem with that. But here's the other thing. He's a really good player. I mean, he had 90 points this year. So, I mean, it wasn't like he was, a fourth line cement head. But that you can't take your eye off the ball, okay? You still have to go out and play. And there's a time and place for everything. I remember when Nick Kypreos did it to Grant Fuhr.
Yep. And
it was a similar play. And Grant Fuhr's knee was shredded. And the Blues waited until the following season to handle him. And I'll never forget, Toronto came in St. Louis. Nick Kypreos is out there. Here comes Tony Twist. And the rest was history. So whatever happens to Kadri won't happen in Colorado on Wednesday. It'll happen next year. But I would also suggest the Blues go out and find some more muscle between now, because next year when the Blues play him, they'll play Curtis McDermott, and he's one of the tough guys in this league, and the Blues don't have an answer for a guy like that. So, but that's down the road. Kadri is a distraction, but he's a good player, and the Blues can't be worrying about this guy right now. And if you get your chance, you unload on him, but I don't think you go out of your way like we saw last night. And the thing about it was, Perron and Buchnevich got penalties for
that's what I was just gonna say. Perron,
but
Perron
they came out and scored goals. They even
it wasn't even only that. It wasn't even the fact that the Avalanche scored goals. It was Kadri that scored the goals. So you do something like that. You do something like that not only to say to your team, I got your back, get the crowd into it, because the crowd after that was like, they up 1-0 down this quick already, and Perron goes and does that. And it's also too to put you down to a 5-on-3 advantage. That's you're not, maybe you're getting the crowd excited for about 30 seconds, but you're not helping your team at all.
Yeah, and I think some would call that either selfish or dumb. Take your pick. That's why I said timing is everything, and there's a time and place to deal with him. I think the emotions got a little high because they realized that this guy has been one of the difference makers in the series. So you have to move on. You got to focus on tomorrow and going back to playing St. Louis Blues hockey and winning a few puck battles. They just got outplayed. They had to make Colorado uncomfortable like they did the last game in Colorado, where they got frustrated. And how they do that, it starts with the first shift and how they come off. And the next shift's got to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Berube shake up a few things along the way. And that's fine. I mean, you don't have anything to lose. You're playing with house money right now.
The next game, again, 7:00 Central Time on Wednesday. That series goes back to Colorado. Do you think it comes back to St. Louis? Do you think we're too far gone?
Well, I don't know. You got a lot of pride in that dressing room.
Yeah.
You have some guys who really have been together for they have 10 guys in the Cup team in there. So those guys, I don't think are going to roll over. I think it's guys like Kyrou and Thomas and some other guys have to step up. They really do. And right now they haven't been able to click. And, maybe Tarasenko pops one home early and get him going. You're going to need productivity, because we boasted about how the Blues bottom six were better than Colorado's bottom six. Well, they haven't proven it so far. So now they've got to go out and prove it and do it starting tomorrow night. If not, then we'll see you next year.
This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe. We're out at Mungenast St. Louis Acura, also powered by Ameren, Illinois, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. The other two series in the NHL, we mentioned the Lightning just finished off their sweep of the Panthers. That's now, 3 straight years, or is it 4 straight years they've gone now to the conference championship?
4.
4. So
yeah, this would be 3.
Because I would say they're back to back.
Knocked out by Columbus in the first round.
Okay,
remember?
So 3 straight years now, Tampa,
which is unheard of. And by the way, if they win, if they go all the way, it'd be first team. It's got to be at least 40 years that a team has won 3 in a row.
The Blackhawks, the Penguins, they had their runs in the early 2000s, but it was at every other. I was trying to think if they lost it all in the champion in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Either they were in, or they weren't, or they didn't win, or they didn't.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, it is. It's impressive, and this is what.
And their best players hurt.
I was gonna say this is 4 straight for Pat Maroon to be in the conference.
He gets a big goal last night. Mm-hmm. Man, you look at it because he really hadn't done much because he hadn't played much. Mm-hmm. Florida skates too well to put Maroon out there in a lot of situations. But in this case, he gets some ice and he takes advantage of it. I don't know how John Cooper keeps that bunch together. It helps with Kucherov and Hedman and Stamkos. That's a nice nucleus, and your goaltender is as good as anybody. So you have that working for you, but everybody else has been able to feed off of it. Corey Perry is playing like a 20-year-old again. And there's some other guys who have really stepped up their game. And I just hope they don't run out of gas because, remember, when you go all the way in the finals, you play longer than everybody. And your summer is very short.
And when you look at the way the last 2 years, 3 years, I mean, really the way that they've been made up with the way the season has been scheduled. Mm-hmm. I mean, just take it. I mean, for example, right now, we are closing in on knowing who the 2 teams are in the NBA Finals, and usually the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals are usually at the exact same time. Yeah. And right now, NHL's 2 weeks behind. We know how many gaps they had in the season this year with when they were starting late, supposed to have the Olympic break, everything else that's happened.
COVID.
Yeah, so. And then you go back and you look at the way the last 2 years, less games, but different finishes to both seasons and different scheduling for both seasons. It's the fact that it got, a lot of these players, you just take Pat Maroon, for example. How many years has he been in the NHL? You get to a routine in the calendar, and that's been thrown off for a lot of these sports.
Yeah.
So the 2 games tonight, also in the NHL, the Rangers look to tie it up in Madison Square Garden. They're down 2-1.
That's not going to happen.
And then
Carolina's a superior team.
The Oilers at home, they're up 2-1 over the Flames.
That Oilers series, and now with Lucic out for 5 games, that series may have a real different turn to it. I still think Calgary's a better team. Mm-hmm. And I think Calgary can get to the finals.
We will take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the winning team in St. Louis from last night down the road at Busch Stadium. Talk about that game and a little baseball talk for you as we are broadcasting from Mungenast St. Louis Acura. It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and also sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com.
My name is Jeremy Seabury. I am one of the owners of Pulpit K9.
Marcus Galmore, co-owner of Pulpit K9.
What makes us different from other dog companies is there is no breed left behind. We stand by that 120%. We specialize in aggressive behavior modification. Good. We don't turn away. We bring them in for a free evaluation to see if we can help the dog.
Here at Pulpit K9, we focus on the owners. Educating the owners.
How do I get this dog to give me the behaviors that I'm asking for without the treats? Mm-hmm. So that's when me and Marcus come in. We train the dog, so when you take the dog home, you don't need the treats. The dog is doing it because you're asking it to.
After each training package, we go through a series of lessons. We keep going until the owner gets it.
We make sure that they go over the beatings with their dog, and that dog is listening before they leave here, but also we follow up when they get home. Is your pup listening to you here? If it's not, we one phone call away, we'll make a trip. We got the Pulpit Mobile, where we go out to their homes and make sure their dog is okay.
Hey, coming up on May 28th, Saturday, May 28th, the Cardinals host the Brewers, and that day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a stainless steel tumbler featuring Yadi and Merlina, courtesy of Coca-Cola and Quick Trip. The 30-ounce tumbler comes in 2 styles. You're not going to know which one you get until you open up the box when you enter the gates at Busch Stadium. For tickets, you can visit cardinals.com/promotions, one of the more popular
One of my
giveaway.
ones, one of my favorites. I got a whole collection of them.
I know my parents have, I think, 2 or 3 of them, so I know they're
good with water, wine, protein shakes.
There you go. Look at that. It looks the little wood. I like the wood, the wood look that they have to them this year, coming up on May 28th. So get your tickets now to make sure you get one of the Yachty tumblers. Who's to say this might be the last Yachty tumbler?
It will be.
It might. I mean, they
may carry it over one more year.
They'll have, you know what, the year he goes into the Hall of Fame. That's the year they do that, and they retire the number 4. That's they'll have the Yachty tumbler that weekend. That'll be the weekend Yachty tumbler. So hey, last time for a while before you get that Yachty tumbler from Busch Stadium again, May 28th. That's you know what, you need to throw one on there too. They need to have one of him pitching on the on
don't
another
think
Yachty
somebody
tumbler.
had to probably run that by somebody. They don't miss much over there.
A third Yachty tumbler maybe with him on the mound looking over his shoulder as he gives up one of those 2 home runs.
He and Albert have even more in common now.
If they don't come out with some sort of giveaway this year for with Albert and Yachty pitching, they that's something that needs to happen. I feel like at some point this year with the Cardinal giveaways. But anything, hey, cardinals.com/promotions is where you can find all of that and get your tickets for those giveaways. Back in 90 seconds.
The future of electric vehicles is beginning to grow across the Midwest, but there's a lot of work to be done before most people will feel comfortable switching from gas to EV. Ameren, Illinois President and Chairman Richard Mark gives us some insight into how they're preparing by adding more electric vehicle charging stations.
Our vision is to basically have charging stations every 60 miles or so, from Cook County all the way to the tip of the state down to the Kentucky area, and then across the state, east and west, going toward Kansas and Iowa to the west, and going toward Indiana to the east. And so we feel that within the next few years we'll probably add, we're hoping to add 60 to 70 a year over the next 5 years to really complete that infrastructure for the entire Midwest. In fact, the Midwest now has all the utilities in the Midwest are joining together to coordinate that. So, which is the first time it's ever happened that you've had Wisconsin say, okay, we're going to build our charging stations here, and Illinois say, okay, well, we can tap on here, and Missouri, this makes sense for us, so we can expand that north, south, east, and west by coordinating with the other utilities.
Hey, back here at lunch with Claibs and Joe from Mungenast, St. Louis Acura, also powered by Ameren, Illinois, and our friends at the HomeLoanExpert.com. You just saw Richard Mark of Ameren. Then the electric vehicles, you go over to Alton Toyota. A lot of those electric vehicles there at the Alton Toyota store will be there next month as we switch back and forth, going back and forth between seeing our friend Clayton Patterson here or Jamie Burkhardt over there at Alton Toyota. Claibs, last night at the ballpark, you know what? I know you said yesterday morning when we talked yesterday morning that you had to do your research on the Blue Jays, and yesterday when I was doing mine for Daily Cards Live with Bob Ramsey, I was shocked to see just how much that team's struggling this year with the I think a lot of people, a lot of the experts had the Blue Jays as a team that was a World Series contender going into this season. When you look at the young talent they had, the good pitching they went out and got, and then adding Chapman to the lineup, I think it's a team a lot of people thought would run away with the East, contend with the East. Nobody expected the Yankees to do what the Yankees are doing to start the year this year. But when you look at those batting averages, it's quick to see where the Blue Jays' trouble is, and they are, got two or three guys that can hit.
They're like the Cardinals.
Yeah.
They're like a lot of teams in the game now where I think you're going to see some guys start to warm up a little bit, but I think everybody's kind of struggling right now as far as finding consistent offense up and down the lineup.
Mhm.
Like you mentioned, everybody's got 2 or 3 guys that are pretty good, but you got to have more than that in order to really be a successful team and show the consistency. And they don't show it right now,
No.
but you can look at their lineup and say, all right, this guy's pretty good. This guy's proven. It takes time for a younger team, but I was impressed with them. Their starter, Barrios, last night was good.
That's the
Bullpen
guy
was
I would have
solid.
liked. I would have, he was a free agent out there.
Mhm.
That would have been a real nice pickup.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That they went and they scored. The one guy, I mean, you look at the similarities. Like Kevin Biggio was on the team, got COVID. Instead of bringing back, they sent him to AAA, and they said, you know what, you're struggling up here. Let's see how, if you were affected much by it, you go down to AAA. Similar to the Cardinals sending DeYoung down to AAA. I know DeYoung's been up in the big league level for a little bit longer. Then you look at a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, MVP candidate last year, similar to Tyler O'Neill, hitting under 200 this year, similar to Tyler O'Neill. It's the similarities I think are there with the two teams offensively for the struggles that they're having this year. But when you look at that and you go, God, Vlad, and then Bichette, and then Hernandez used to be that used to be really fearsome. But now you look at it and you go, okay.
Yeah, you're right. I was kind of intrigued by how they pitched Guerrero, especially middle in the game where they had runners in scoring position, and they decided to pitch them with a base open. But they pitched them right because, sometimes we get caught up in the shift. So it was almost like, all right, we're going to pitch to him, but we're not going to give him anything that he can really hit. So he expanded his strike zone and grounded out to Gorman, and that's how the inning ended. So you get teams and players that get a little frustrated. They want to expand their strike zone. They start hitting the pitcher's pitch. And I think we see more of that right now. Not to say that these pitchers are great. I think the hitters are helping the pitchers more than ever as far as getting out.
God, you watch Vlad Guerrero up there, and the cuts that he takes, he's his father's son.
But one of the things, though, he didn't have the strikeout to walk. I didn't think his strikeout ratio was that bad for a guy who can hit for power. And last year we saw him hit for average. He's an accomplished player, even at a young age. And I'm really looking forward to watching him grow, especially in the American League. I don't know if I want to see that guy on a regular basis.
You got to see him every year now. I mean,
true.
Starting next year, you're going to see him every year. It might be 2 games, but that's fine.
Yeah, and that I think that's going to be. I think next year, between the schedule, the pitch clock is going to have a significant difference in how we do things. Not only for pitchers but hitters as well. And I think it's going to be good for the game because we can't have. Guy like last night, Giovanni Gallegos was in the 27 to 30 second range between pitches. Normally he's like 24, 26, but last night he extended it. And if you look at the last 2 outings of Hudson and Hicks, they're kind of falling into that mode, and they got to change that. So that's going to change a lot, and I think we're going to see better hitting, and I think we're going to see better pitching. But for this year, I just think it's taking guys a little longer to get it figured out because teams are trying to do some things differently too.
Let's talk about the Cardinals, and that's the Gallegos, the bullpen last night. I think there were a lot of questions as to how Ali Marmol was going about using the bullpen when he brought in Palante there in place of Michaelis. I tweeted out at the time too. I wanted to get ahead of it. I questioned that move because I thought that's a place. You know what? Screw 8th inning guy, 9th inning guy stuff. I thought that was where you bring in Ryan Helsley to get the strikeouts right there. We later find out why Helsley wasn't brought in there. It seems Helsley's your new closer, because you see that happen, and then Gallegos comes in the 8th. It's like, wait a second, what's happening here? At some point this weekend, Gallegos, even though he closed on Friday.
And he was good on Friday.
He came out the 5 strikeouts. Yeah, at some point.
But could it have been more of a matchup situation because they were giving him a lot of right-handed hitters. I I thought Cabrera would have been squeezed in there at some point. So I think that there's some validity to what you say about Helsley being a potential closer. But in my conversations with him about pitching, if you notice, he's a guy who can give you 2 innings, he can give you 3 if you need him. But that means you can't use him the next day.
Mhm.
And I think he's a guy for right now. You want to get the best out of him at least 2 days a week, if not 3. But I don't think he's a guy you're going to see, 4 days a week because he goes longer.
Mhm.
And until maybe that's the way the game is going, where relievers are going to have to be more conditioned to go beyond the 1 inning. It's something that he's got to figure out. And then I think the Cardinals have to make sure they stagger enough guys to make sure they have themselves covered.
Yeah, as you look at the bullpen and just kind of how, we'll see the next time it's a close game in the 9th. I guess we'll see who they bring out as the closer.
But here's the thing, though. I wouldn't put too much into that. I think you got to look at who's hot as far as who's a guy who hasn't pitched that much. And I think matchups come into play. Ollie's a guy who, he kind of goes by the book, but he also has another book in his pocket on 2 things. One, how many guys need rest, and also who might be hurt, and he'd like to try and slide them if he could to another day.
I think another thing that has to be looked at is the use of Palante, who has been very good this year. He's not a guy you bring in the middle of the inning. He's not a guy you bring out with runners on base. He is a guy that if you need somebody in the 6th or 7th inning and it's not a left-handed situation there at the time, then I think he needs to start an inning fresh, get you 3 outs, and go back, because
I don't think you have that luxury all the time.
No, you don't. But I think that's where you need to find somebody that will, because I think Palante has done a great job of getting outs. I think he lets too many base runners on. So when you put him out there with bases loaded, that was not an ideal position to put him in.
Okay, Mr. Second Guesser, who would you have put in that situation?
I already said Helsley.
Yeah.
I already said so.
But you couldn't use Helsley because, as we learned later,
so that's where I put it, and I put it out. I first guessed. I guessed before it happened, and I said Helsley here, but we found out there. So I would imagine Ollie is going to get asked about that tonight at the ballpark before the game. Did he talk about it after the game? Did you happen to hear?
I was not able to hear.
Yeah, because I know your star of the game yesterday was Brendan Donovan.
He didn't want to do it. I was like, look, man, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be standing here right now winning the game, because that play he made in the 9th inning would have been a difference maker.
Yeah.
So he's a good kid, though. I think for youngsters, go to the ballpark and watch him and watch how he puts work in. This guy has a handful of gloves that he works with every day. He's played first, second, short, third, and right field so far. I mean, think about that. Those guys, they end up having 10, 12-year careers minimum. By the way, here's another interesting item. Albert's approaching 3,000 games, which is unheard of. You think about how many sports do we see? And granted, you play baseball every day, but 3,000 games? That's. I don't know if there'll be anybody that would get to that number.
I don't know if did you get a chance to watch the game on Peacock the other day? I know a lot of people had trouble, and I know it was early, and I know you were traveling. There were a lot of issues.
To it. And by the way, I don't know whether you had a chance to hear Dan McLaughlin on Ricky Gordon and John Rooney. I thought it was fun, especially during the rain delay. They started going through the impersonation list, and John's got a few good ones. Danny Mac does John Miller better than John Miller does. So I was happy. He's one of our teammates, and I'm happy that he's part of what we're doing. And hopefully we're in postseason when he doesn't have anything to do with Bally's. He can be part of that as well.
So during the game, they talked to Albert. The Peacock. So it was Jason Benetti, Bob Walk, and Jim Edmonds were on the call there. So
that's a good combination.
It was fun.
Edmonds, I think Jason does a nice job.
So good.
And to hear a hitter in the booth with a pitcher, and they played in different eras, but bottom line is, that sounded like that could be a.
It was fun to listen to. I think for everything that the Apple TV broadcast is, I think Peacock is the exact opposite. I think it's you get if
they're more traditional.
It is.
Benetti
Apple. Is a true pro, and I think one of the best play-by-play guys on TV right now.
Yeah.
And adding just a different flavor, not bringing in another guy and putting him with it every day, but having him, because the first game I watched, it was White Sox, Red Sox. So it was Benetti. Benetti's always play-by-play. And then he was with Steve Stone, who's his regular partner on the White Sox broadcast. And then Kevin Youkilis.
Okay.
So you had, again, pitcher hitter, two different eras, but Youkilis knew the Red Sox, Stone knew the White Sox, and you got from both sides. So if you're a casual fan,
I like that concept.
Yeah, if you're a casual fan, you're learning about both teams.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pujols was talking about about then his shadow. Yepes is just following him everywhere, talking about it.
I saw him in Albert's cubicle the other day, just standing there, hanging up with the shirts and caps and stuff.
And Albert said, "It's great. I love helping him out. It's fun." He goes, "But when I look at the lineup card and I see that he's in left and I'm DH," and he goes, "I know I'm in for a long day."
I was having this conversation on my way here, and this is the rebirth of Cardinal Nation. If you're one of these young kids and you're sitting in a clubhouse with Albert and Yachty and Wayno and Arenado and Goldschmidt, that's a pretty interesting collection of people. And if you're a young player, you now know what the tradition is all about. And I think because we kind of gotten away from the whole Cardinal Nation or the Cardinal way. Yeah, that's really what I'm talking about. We kind of were getting away from that because we didn't have any stalwarts that were around in various areas. Now you do. And the best thing about it is they're willing to give back compared to saying, well, that's his job to figure it out. And there are guys like that.
No, and so that's what I want. As you look at you mentioned Brendan Donovan, we brought up Yepes. You look at guys that weren't on that opening day roster, and you look at now the makeup of this team. Goldschmidt's your everyday first baseman. Arenado's your everyday third baseman. Right now with the injuries, Bader's your only center fielder that you have on the roster. I know Edmund played out there the other day.
Newbar can play.
So you look at all of the different combinations everywhere else on the field now, and just how diverse this team is with that, and the way that the young guys are coming up and hitting. Nolan Gorman hasn't hit a home run yet, which I think is, made it so he had to be brought up. Well, the home runs that he was hitting down in AAA, you kind of looked at it, we got to bring him up here. He's hitting the cover off the ball down there. We got to see what he can do here.
He's going to run into. If you look at this schedule, Toronto's got good pitching. San Diego's pitching is pretty good. Milwaukee's pitching is pretty good. We see that a lot. And then here comes San Diego. He's going to get one, but I wouldn't. My thing was you better get one in Pittsburgh because the pitching you're going to see from after that is not going to be something that's going to be that easily available to you.
But you look, his debut could not be going any better now.
No, he's doing all the right things. And, home runs come with time.
Yeah.
The concept of them have changed with regard to what's acceptable because, he had over 50 strikeouts in the minors. And that was something that you would frown upon, but you say, well, that's high risk, high reward. He'll strike out twice a night, but he'll hit a 3-run homer. And so once he gets out of that mindset of feeling this is all I have to do and be a hitter, the home runs will come.
Now the way the lineup is kind of built, and you're seeing him, securing that second spot in the lineup, and you're looking at.
I like it too. I like him because he's going to see good pitches.
Yeah, that's I compared it yesterday to when you had Larry Walker or Chris Duncan, somebody like that, a power hitting lefty just sitting there in that 2 spot before all of the other big guys come up after him.
Well, here's the key to that too. If Edmund gets on base, his base stealing threat will make them even concentrate on throwing in more fastballs. And then, of course, you say to yourself, who do we want to face? This guy or the guy that's behind him in Goldschmidt, who is having a phenomenal season right now. And I interviewed him last week, and he's such a stoic guy that's bare bones. He just, I just see it and try and hit it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got an idea of what's going on. He doesn't have these protracted descriptions on how to hit, but he understands the game. And man, he's not getting himself out. Like that pitch last night, the previous pitch. No, it was 1 ball, 2 strikes. They threw him. The first pitch was a ball. No, first pitch was a strike. No, first pitch was a ball. Then they threw him a pitch inside that missed. First pitch strike. Next pitch they threw him inside, missed, and they threw another pitch a little bit more in. They called a strike because he kind of looked back at the umpire and like, what was that? And then and so he's thinking like I'm thinking they're gonna throw that same pitch again to him because they'll think he's gonna look outside. And they threw it in the same spot, and we all had a chance to go home early. Or a little earlier than we would have.
I was gonna say it was a quick moving game until they got into the bullpen.
It's always that way.
It was flying yesterday with and Michaelis were both pitching.
Well, Michaelis always works quick.
Yeah,
which is we don't know what's going to be like tonight because as I mentioned with Hicks pitching, and I'm going to talk to Ollie about that today. Do you say to a pitcher, "Look, man, you got to pick it up because you're killing us out here"? I mean, because he and Hudson had 2 of the slowest games I've seen in a long time, their last 2 outings.
We know that they'll be without Yachty tonight, though, so it'll be a young guy behind the plate managing that game. Yachty out for,
He'll be back Thursday. Is
that what they said?
Yeah. Well, what happened is Kid hurt himself in a game, so he had surgery today, I believe.
Okay.
And so we got an off day tomorrow, so we'll probably see. Well, he's going to pitch. Yeah, he's gonna be here Thursday because you know who's pitching.
Yeah.
So that takes care of that.
Make sure he gets that flight back here by then. That's a big series this weekend. Is Cardinals 2 games back now of Milwaukee. Milwaukee lost to the Padres last night, and the Cardinals get their win. The Cardinals have a tough one ahead of them tonight, going against Gausman tonight.
Yeah, but the Cardinals have hit Gausman reasonably well when he was in San Francisco. So. But you know what? You can't take any of these games for granted. And it's a different looking team from last year as far as Gausman's concerned. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
The Michaelis last night, 2 runs were credited to him with the when Palante walked in, the 2 guys bases loaded. But Michaelis, another very good outing. Is he an all-star right now?
Yeah. I mean, look at his numbers.
That's what I'm looking at his numbers across the board. That's what I thought that last night before the game.
Between now and July,
yeah.
But he certainly is going to be in the conversation. I think obviously Arenado and Goldschmidt are in that conversation.
Edmund.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Not voted in though. I mean,
he'll make the team. But what happens if you have the 2 corner guys that get voted in?
Yachty get voted in his last year? He doesn't have Buster Posey to go against in the voting now.
Yeah, that's a good question. But, here's the thing I feel that baseball should do. I think they should have a commissioner selection.
And you think
for a guy, this is his last year, service to the game. I think that they should have what they call a commissioner selection.
When Albert goes too, then.
Yeah.
So, which by the way, I've been closely following the gifts that teams are giving them in their last homestands there.
Yeah.
So I've just to make sure that they are, because Jeter, Ortiz, they got stuff everywhere they went there last year. So this has been something that I've been locked in on this year. And the
What's
Mets
been the coolest gift? The Mets gave $5,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say nothing yet so far. Like the Giants were just like, okay,
they just recognize.
Yeah, they recognize them. The Mets haven't yet. So disappointed with where they go. Miami didn't do anything for them. But I mean,
they recognize them on the scoreboard.
Did they?
Yeah. I think it was like the 5th inning. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was the 5th inning.
Because everywhere else they've gone, they haven't gone anywhere else this year that's been the last visit there yet.
Yeah.
So everywhere else has been teams. So
I'll be interested to see what Cincinnati gives Yachty.
That's what I was like when you get towards the end of the year, those National League Central teams, like what they're going to give those guys for that. They might as well just give Albert ownership of PNC Park for the numbers he's
put. Get him his own parking space there.
They already got right field named after Clemente. You might as well name left field after Albert for all the balls he's put out there. Hey, this is Lunch with Claibs and Joe. We are powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and that's where we are today here on Manchester. You can find them online at stlouisacura.com. And Claibs, hey, as we're about to hear, the only 30-time winner of the Acura Precision Team Award. We'll be back in just a bit.
At St. Louis Acura, new inventory is arriving daily, both new and pre-owned. Our buying team adds a higher level of personalized service that others can't match. We sell over 100 pre-owned vehicles monthly, and many of these are matched by our buying teams in Missouri and Illinois. As new Acura production ramps up, be one of the lucky ones to try the newest Type S models now available. Performance has never been so stylish and comfortable. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you.
I'm with the home loan experts, James and Jason Gillespie. They're a father and son combination. James, you guys not only do great work with mortgages, you also do great work in the community.
That is correct, Mike. We have several programs for the community where we're out helping the community as well. Isn't that right, Jason?
You're right, Dad. We are doing a ton of work in the community, but we're also doing a ton of work helping home buyers refi and buy homes. All you have to do is give us a call.
2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the memorable 1982 World Championship team. The Cardinals will be celebrating this remarkable championship all season long. On Friday, May 27th, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a 1982 inspired baseball t-shirt featuring the roster of this World Championship team. For more information, go to cardinals.com/promotions.
A big 1982 weekend this weekend, Claibs, with the Brewers in town celebrating 40 years since
Is that this weekend?
That's this weekend. So you got the Simmons, you got the Simmons replica statue this weekend. You got the 1982 T-shirt this weekend.
See, I thought they were coming in later in the year.
They might come in later in the year too. I know they're doing stuff this weekend for that too. I don't know if the players are going to be in this weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend too, so big holiday weekend. Brewers in town, Padres next week.
It's later in the year. Now that I remember, I'm going to tell you when, so everybody can get their tickets, because that'll be a lot of fun to see those guys coming back. So I'm saying it's going to happen in August 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Okay,
it's a weekend series.
Who's that against?
Milwaukee.
Against Milwaukee again. All right, because I know the Hall of Fame is a whatever weekend that is. I know I'm out of town. Whatever the weekend the Hall of Fame is, that the 2 weekends after that? Is that the 27th?
You're right. Yeah.
Is that against the Braves? I think that's the Braves. The 27th.
You are correct, sir.
Yeah, I think that might be the Hall of Fame for that weekend. Again, cardinals.com/promotions for all of those tickets. And hey, just follow our socials too. We got tickets to give away. I think we might have. I don't know. You check. You have to check what you have and see if we have tickets to give away for tonight. For this weekend. We'll give those.
Well, I think this weekend might be out.
You got this weekend out? I don't know about tonight. For that, but hey, also we got NBA playoffs to talk about.
Today is Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday.
We have 2 for Tuesday, and we have 2 for tomorrow.
Who's tomorrow? Blue Jays against tomorrow?
I'm sorry, Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
So,
I was gonna say, yeah, we got okay. We'll give those away all night. Hey, tonight, Warriors, Mavericks. Warriors are up 3-0.
Nobody's ever come back from that, by the way.
The NBA already shot their bullet having Scott Foster officiate the game last night between the Heat and the Celtics. So you know that he's the extender. Claibs, you need to extend a series. You have Scott Foster referee that game. That they should have saved him for tonight to make sure they get a little more out of that series.
No, there's nothing to say. I mean, Scott Foster could have his twin brother working the game, and Golden State's that much better than Dallas right now. Man, Golden State's clicking, and they may get Iguodala back. Peyton Jr., he might be back. They could be a handful in the finals, but I don't think Dallas has much of a chance tonight.
Now at home
in Dallas.
I
don't think so. I think this team is understanding that rest is important.
Mm-hmm.
Get this over with. Let's fly home and wait for these other teams to beat each other's brains
Yeah.
out. So I think they're going to turn it up a notch early tonight.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of saw this coming. I think maybe a year longer than it would have taken. But when Golden State went on that run, and then you saw Curry and a lot of the guys get hurt, and they, took a step back. They had a lottery pick. I mean, they were real bad. But you knew that it was going to come back. You knew that they weren't going to be down forever.
Yeah.
And then quickly getting back in here where if the Heat and the Celtics beat each other up enough, if that series goes long. I know the Warriors might just roll through the finals too.
No, those guys will get there to finals. They'll earn it. I don't think you'll see a sweep. But isn't it amazing as we watch the NBA season how many injuries we're seeing in the playoffs compared to years past, where maybe it's the fact that the actual schedule is the legitimate one they used to have, and there's just a little bit more physical play. But I'm shocked at how many guys are going down. NHL, we're kind of seeing the same thing. Now we're back to a normal schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some guys who hit the wall and fatigue is set in, and they're paying a very severe price for it.
Who do you like right now in that Heat Celtics?
I still like the Heat because if they get Butler, Lowry, and or a Hero back, I don't think Boston's got bulky right now, and he's the only rim protector they have. Al Horford gives you an effort, but he Bam Adebayo destroyed them the other day. And like I said, if they get those three guys back, I think Boston's going to have a handful.
Horford, decent game last night. Filled the stat sheet last night.
He got off early, and that was the key. And, they kind of sent Miami. I've never seen an NBA team just falter like that in the first half. And I kept saying, well, it's the first half. You know how the NBA works, guys turn on. Man, Miami just never had an answer the whole night.
So right now in the NBA, saw this stat earlier. I'm going to try to find it again here. The margin of victory, last 17 playoff games, the margin of victory has been 19.8 points for the last 17 NBA playoff games.
So that means somebody gave up.
It has been blowouts. Just about every game. There have been, in the last 17 playoff games, there have been a total of 7 clutch time minutes in these games. The ratings aren't going to be great if that's the case. There's no reason to lock in and watch all of these games when they're blowouts like this.
I think, though, it's when the blowout takes place. And a good example is how soon goaltenders will pull off the ice in the third period when you're down by 2. And all of a sudden you're down by 2 and you lose by 4. And people, man, that was a blowout. Well, no, it wasn't. They were playing with an extra attacker. They just couldn't score. I think in the NBA, you have a series where you always can climb back in it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And when you don't do something in the first 3 to 4 minutes of the quarter, that's when teams start to pack it in and figure we'll go get them tomorrow or whenever the next game's going to be.
How much of the PGA Championship did you get a chance to watch this weekend?
I watched a good deal of it. I was happy for Justin Thomas. He's a guy that we see down in Jupiter all the time. Zalatoris, though, is going to be around. Okay, he's a really good golfer. But I was amazed at 2 things. The weather change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one day it was hot as walking on the sun, and the next day guys they're layered up.
You weren't here this weekend. It sucked this weekend.
Saturday
was one of the just shittiest days that I can remember in a long time.
You might be the 5th person who said it just like that. But the day before in Oklahoma, it was okay. I was talking to somebody who was at the tournament. He said, man, it's between the wind. He said, well, we're supposed to have some different weather the next day. But I didn't think he thought it was going to be that different. The other thing about the PGA, it was hard to watch Tiger.
Yeah.
And NBC was stuck with him because he went off early. And so they kind of followed him. And he wasn't making shots. And
he made a business decision after that third round.
He should.
Mm-hmm.
And, now there have been some articles that like he needs to hang it up. It's over. I don't know when you say it's over for a guy like that, because until he figures out how to maneuver things with his leg, we're going to see that because he was swinging. He was swinging like a guy who was not in shape, or his body was breaking down at 16. At the 16 hole, he was just swinging from his arms and not using his body because he couldn't. So we'll see what next event he decides to pick up. I know
you think he plays another one before the British?
You might want to get a tune-up. And the thing is, with him, everybody thought, well, he'd do well at this course. He's played that course well. Well, the one they playing the British at, he's done really well at. He's already been over there for a couple of practice rounds. So you just never know. And again, I think you don't know what the weather's going to be like. And I think weather has more of an impact on his game now than it ever has.
Yeah, there's nothing that's going to keep him away from St. Andrews next month. And that's the thing. I don't know if he needs to play in these tournaments. I mean, because he could just go out and he can walk 18. He can go play and he can go do that. I don't know if the tournament setting is something he needs to really put himself out there for.
I think he does, because I think he has to be physically conditioned for terrain and how to approach things. And where do you draw energy and strength when you're at 16 and you got 3 holes to play? I think you're always having a dress rehearsal. I think for him at this stage of his career, I think there was a time, as you mentioned, he could just do his thing and play and he'd be fine. But I think he has to go through that process because his body is being physically challenged on a regular basis now.
We wrap things up here at Mungenast St. Louis Acura. Just come on out here. Check out the showroom floor they have out here, or go online to stlouisacura.com and see all the cars they have available. Game tonight against Toronto, big weekend series against Milwaukee before the Padres come into town. And the Padres playing really good baseball right now too, without Fernando Tatis Jr. on the team. What else do you have lined up?
Well, we're going to probably talk to Kevin Weeks tomorrow with regard to what happens with the Blues and the rest of the playoffs. Obviously, you guys are going to be talking a lot of baseball, and we'll have another edition of the Joe West podcast coming up on Monday.
Yeah, Eduardo Perez is on this week.
Yeah, and I've already heard great things about that podcast. And we're going to have his dad on down the road.
Yep.
And we've got a few other people. Joe Buck's going to be part of it in June. We've got a couple of other guys.
I'm not allowed to say who's on the show, but he just comes out here and says.
I mean, I personally confirmed it, but we'll give everybody a heads up.
I'm not allowed to mention the interviews we've already recorded, but you just come out.
No, it's different than saying what we already have in the can compared to people they can look forward to. So.
Yeah, very much. I am looking forward to, because one of the things.
By the way, did you watch him on the PGA thing with Michael Collins?
I was following it here and there on it. Yeah,
I was talking to Frank Cusano about this on Saturday. I think this is going to be a trend we're going to see, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Turner in postseason had their crew on TBS for a conference finals game.
Barkley, you mean?
Yeah. I think you're going to see more of that, especially with these networks that have multiple outlets. And I think it's they want to give you an environment as if you're sitting on the couch with them. And I think that's going to be a trend of the future. I don't think I'm opposed to it. I think you just have to have the right combination. And I think with Joe and Michael Collins, it really worked, in my opinion.
With in regards to the Joe West podcast and Joe Buck coming on, I think one of the things I really enjoyed hearing Eduardo Perez talk about was running around the hallways there at Riverfront Stadium as a kid, and some of the stuff that, the rules that were there, or talking about, his best friend being Pete Rose Jr. and, just the relationships that he has from that, hearing the stories like that from Joe Buck, and knowing, that he also grew up in a baseball stadium, very different from the way Eduardo Perez grew up there, but still the people that he would run into and see all the time as a kid, and then growing up in the business as well. They're fun stories. They are fun stories that you will that you hear on the Joe West podcast, and very much looking forward to having Joe join us in the month of June for that.
Groovy.
That'll do it for us out here at Mungenast St. Louis Acura. We thank them for having us out here. Next month we'll be over at the Alton shop on Homer Adams Parkway to say hi to Jamie at Mungenast Alton Toyota. Until then, lots of great content up on claibsonline.com. Rammer and I have the Daily Cards Live. Rammer and Rockio also with two-man game talking NBA playoffs and a little slew Billiken notes here and there. So plenty of stuff for you on Claibs Online. I am Joe Roderick. We will talk to you soon.
At St. Louis Acura, new inventory is arriving daily, both new and pre-owned. Our buying team adds a higher level of personalized service that others can't match. We sell over 100 pre-owned vehicles monthly, and many of these are matched by our buying teams in Missouri and Illinois. As new Acura production ramps up, be one of the lucky ones to try the newest Type S models now available. Performance has never been so stylish and comfortable. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you.